This man worked for the New England Patriots for
20 years.
Holy hell. Started as a scout, moved up to director of player personnel, was a right-hand man for the greatest GM and greatest head coach in NFL history, Bill Belichick. Then when he got hired in Houston, it seemed like, and this is no exaggeration, the entire building was on fire. Somehow able to maintain a little bit of steady course, got a quarterback in like the 4th round or 3rd round that has become an absolute stud early, building up around brand new head coach, brand new offense, brand new vibe. Ladies and gentlemen, the general manager for the Houston Texans, Nick Caserio.
Thanks, Pat. Quite an introduction. So actually, I'd rather go back to have more conversation about what you guys were talking about, Jacksonville flying out of the sky and everything else. So, But before we get to that, just want to congratulate you on your victory against bum-ass Courtney the other night. So that was definitely a solid effort.
Thank you, Nick. And I see your last name, and I don't want to be too prejudiced, but I don't know. Did you see the Swanton Bombini? That came into effect because I took a 23andMe. Turned out I was 0.01% Italian. So I put a pinky ring on the next day, and I do the Bombini in there for all of us Italian people, you know?
I'm more than 0.01, I guess. So I'm probably more than 99.9. So I picked up the rest of the slack for you.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Paisan. Let's get into this. Jacksonville skydiving every single game down there is awesome. I mean, that is sweet. It is very. You're in the AFC South, so you get it at this point. You go down there, and this son of a bitch is diving off the top of the. It's like, wow, I wish there was more people to see this. There is about to be. It feels like the AFC South is in a little bit of a turnover, right? I mean, Jacksonville, Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence, Indianapolis, we got Matt Ryan now. Tennessee, I mean, they got banged up there, so they're the AFC South, big question mark. How do you view that? I assume you view that as an opportunity, and has the last year and a half or so as general manager been everything you thought it would be?
Oh, there's a lot there. As far as the AFC South is concerned, I think every year there's going to be change. There's going to be different opportunities. Players come and go. Coaches come and go a little bit. I think each year, everybody has to kind of look at their situation and figure out what they feel makes the most sense for their team. So, Jacksonville made some changes on the player front. We're very active in free agency. Made the change with Coach Peterson coming in. The Colts made the acquisition with Matt Ryan, who I think they believe is going to be a big part of their program. And Tennessee just kind of made some changes and modifications, or kind of around the fringes here a little bit. I mean, they're the best team in the division, the best team, the best coach in the league last year, and Coach Vrabel. So there's certainly challenges that we're going to face on a week-to-week basis. So, each year it's a new opportunity for us. We've made some changes, try to take advantage of our opportunities. We're kind of, a few days in here to training camp. So I think the goal is to try to just keep this thing moving in the right direction, try to make some progress. Tying it to the other part of your question there, anytime you go into a new situation, quite honestly, you really don't know what to expect until you get there. And you just try to make smart decisions, make right decisions, and just do what you feel is in the best interest of the organization. And that's what we've tried to do here since, I arrived back in January of 2021.
What kind of influence has Lovie Smith had on the whole team, the whole organization? He seems to be always like super steady, calm, but also in control. Has he had a similar thing to the rest of the team?
Yeah, no, it's a very astute observation, AJ. I mean, his jump shot's pretty strong, as you guys can attest.
Hey, how about that shit? He was. That was splash.
That was strong.
Yeah,
that was strong. But just kind of going back to your question, AJ, Lovey's got a lot of experience. He's seen a lot of football. It's kind of funny. My first year in New England was 2001, and I was like literally the janitor, in the building, so I wasn't really doing much, but. That year we played, the Rams in the Super Bowl, and Lovie was the defensive coordinator. So here we are, however many years later, 20 some odd years later, we're running the team and running the franchise together. So Lovie's had a lot of experience with a lot of good teams, a lot of good defenses. He's very well respected throughout the league. He's very well respected amongst the players. And I think just that, I would say, stability with him last season and kind of continue carrying that forward to this season. Everybody kind of knows what to expect from him, and he's the same guy every day. He's got a great demeanor, holds the players accountable. They respect that, and I think they're excited to come into the building on a day-to-day basis.
We're talking to Paisan GM of the Houston Texans, Nick Caserio. Nick, I believe we had, some jokes at your expense last season. And, I'm the type of guy that, I have had to run into things that I've said publicly. Two people in public. I seen Chris Pratt 1 week after we buried Jurassic World Dominion at a UFC fight. And I also seen Miles Teller was sitting right there next to him, and me and Miles had a whole situation. So I am 100% in on confronting a situation that has taken place when we have to speak every single day. When we heard you were wearing headsets during the game, I think myself and everybody's natural reaction was the GM doesn't have to have a fucking headset. If he wants to have the headset on, why doesn't he just coach as well? Where did that come from? Is that something you do on a day-to-day basis? And do you just feel like if it's something I'm good at, which is Darius Butler told us you're the one that put him through the workout whenever he went to the New England Patriots.
That's true.
Yeah, he said it was a nightmare. He said you put him through the absolute ringer. Like, do you feel like you're more connected to the game than other GMs, and that's why you don't want to give up that part? Or how did that whole thing kind of come to be, you think, Nick?
Yeah, it's a great question. It sounds like it was a very big topic of conversation, but I'd say my background just in football is pretty unique, just going back to my days in New England. So when I started in 01, it was a personnel assistant and kind of transitioned into quality control role. So in 2002, I was in the press box for the offense, kind of charting things and doing things. And then the following year, I've actually moved to the road. I was going to be on the road doing college scouting, evaluating the top 100 players. And we were kind of transitioning some people into the quality control role, and come to find out in camp, it really didn't work out. And then the first game, I think we played Buffalo in the opener in 2003, if I remember correctly. And, there were some things that going on in the press box, and I'll never forget, I was actually coincidentally, I was at Ohio State. I was at the Ohio State North Carolina State game when Phillip Rivers and Jericho Cotchery were prospects. So this is 2003. It's like the second week of September. So I get a call and they say, hey, Nick, can you get to Philadelphia? We were playing the Eagles the next day in Philadelphia. I said, yeah, sure, whatever you need, So I flew from Columbus to Philadelphia to go up in the press box and just assume my roles and responsibilities in terms of communicating with the offensive coordinator, getting them the information. So from 2003 until 2020, regardless of my title or role in New England, I was essentially kind of involved in the game day operation. So, and then really when we transitioned here to Houston last season, it was really more to have an awareness of understanding of what was going on during the course of the game. So when you're evaluating a player, when you're evaluating a team, just having an idea of the play call, then you can say, okay, what's the assignment? What's this player going to do? It's really more to make mental notes and to kind of have an overview of the operation and what goes on. It's not about calling plays, but everybody kind of has an imagination of their own.
Well, that's awesome. I want to let you know, 100% our fault there, and that makes a lot of sense, by the way. If you're trying to learn these coaches too, right? You're trying to learn coaches, how you can expedite things, because from 2003 to 2020, you guys are pretty fucking good up there in New England too. So I apologize that we didn't automatically go, oh, that seems like the right move. Getting a chance to kind of hear things, because our immediate response, because we never heard anything like this before, was, oh, this guy wants to do everything. Why does this guy want to do everything? And we thought, oh, that's on us. I want to let you know we fucked that one up.
Yeah, no, believe me, no apologies. It's sometimes just have to have context, and I would just say I'm very fortunate and to have a sort of a unique background, the way we kind of were developed in New England. And really, it's try to look at it from an overall football perspective. And as someone that's overseeing the entire football operation, just have an understanding of what is going on, not necessarily provide input. It's really more of an awareness and understanding. And if there's something that does come up after the game, when you kind of do a post-mortem, you can go back and kind of have a reference point. So it's really there to be more ears than necessarily be a voice. And whatever we decide to do this season, like Lovey and I have a good relationship. We talk about everything. Whatever we think makes the most sense, I'm all in favor of. Whatever the best thing for the Houston Texans, and that's what we're going to do.
We apologize for burying you for that. Sorry. we do apologize. Thank you for laughing about it. But, I mean, we had some...
Oh, we said some bad things.
Yeah, we did. We don't need to pull the tape, do we?
No, we've said enough. We've said enough. Go ahead, AJ.
No problem.
If you have that headset on, are there some times when you're more vocal than others, and you tend to be more vocal if you guys are winning or losing?
Yeah, honestly, I kind of keep my mouth shut. So it's just really kind of listening, and really don't want to provide input unless it's actually, if somebody asks my opinion, then I'll provide it. Hey, what do you think about this situation? But there's other teams, I would say, you have different people. Let's just take replay as an example, right? Sometimes you have somebody specifically earmarked so that another coach or a position coach or coordinator doesn't have to say, well, should we challenge? Should we not challenge it? Maybe you have one person that says, hey, you know what? This is a play. You know what's not worth throwing the flag. Let's keep the flag and save the challenge so we don't lose a timeout. So I think it's going to be sometimes it's very specific, and a lot of it, from my perspective, is just understanding. In New England, it was more vocal because it was more communication directly to the coordinator and Josh, hey, the down and distance, what's the personnel that's in the game so they can get the play call. So it all depends on what's the assignment, what you're being asked to do. So I'd say from my perspective, it's more big picture, kind of view the operation, make sure we're moving in the right direction. If something pops up and we talk about it after the game, maybe something came up in the press box, maybe a coach said something. Again, it's really just to be in tune with what's going on from a holistic approach. From a football operational perspective.
You're a Paisan from Ohio. You just played football your whole life, and then scouting was just how you got in the door, basically?
Yeah, actually, I was a football, baseball, basketball guy growing up. Started playing baseball when I was 6 years old. I wasn't good enough. I mean, look, there aren't too many 5'10", 107-pound quarterbacks playing in the NFL other than maybe Flutie back in his day. But so at some point, I was going to have to transition to something else. Played a little bit of basketball at John Carroll for a little bit, but eventually focused on football. And then when I was finished at John Carroll, I was a finance major. I actually started working at Merrill Lynch. So I thought, I'm going to go into private finance, stay involved there. So then then I realized, you know what, my last opportunity. If I want to be in football, I'm just going to go try to find an opportunity wherever that is. So I literally I made 2 trips in the summer of 2000, what it would have been 2001. I drove to, or 19, whatever year that was, but I drove to Concordia University, interviewed for a GA job there in Illinois, and then I drove to Saginaw Valley State in Saginaw, Michigan, met with the head coach. Literally took me I didn't know anybody. This was like the old footballscoop.com. You're trying to find a job. All right, hey, online. Oh, Saginaw Valley, they got a job. Let me go up there and see if I can find a job. Literally, that's how it started. So I went up there as a GA. I GA'd there for 2 years, was able to work on my MBA at Saginaw Valley. And then I did two football seasons at Saginaw Valley, and then went to Central Michigan from January 2001 to June. And then Josh McDaniels, who was a college teammate of mine, who's one of my close friends to this day, called me and said, "Hey, might have an opportunity for you working personnel and scouting." And quite frankly, Pat, I didn't even know what personnel and scouting was in the NFL. I'm like, oh, that sounds all right. Yeah, let me go interview.
Hey,
I had no idea. I had no clue, no concept. So went up, interviewed with Scott Pioli, who was the personnel director at the time. I was fortunate enough to land the job, and by the grace, I had the good fortune of being able to stay there from 2001 to 2020, which in the NFL, it's not an easy thing to do. So very fortunate and blessed to be around a lot of good people in New England, to be given opportunity from a lot of good people.
How come you think the people would leave New England? I don't know how it is in front office. It's not as publicly documented, but how come you think coaches that leave New England, for whatever reason, seem to trend to not do as well? Is it because you think everybody's trying to put in the Patriot way immediately and the resume isn't there yet, so it's not taken as serious from the players? And if you don't have immediate success, it's going to be hard just to be miserable at work every day? If I'm misreading the Patriot way, I apologize for that, but it feels like that's what happens when coaches leave New England and go elsewhere. Is that something you had to think about consciously whenever you were handed over the reins? Like, hey, this isn't New England, but I just got a 2-decade course in how to run the greatest franchise in history. How do you kind of blend those? And is that something you had to think about whenever you get a new job somewhere?
No, it's a great question. I think the most important thing is wherever you go, you just have to be yourself, and you just have to have an understanding of the situation and the circumstances. And until you really get there, you really don't have an idea of what's happening. And the reality is, Bill is a unicorn. Bill is one of the greatest at everything that he does, and there's only one Bill. So what you try to do, I think you alluded to in your question, you just maybe try to take some of the things that you learn and try to figure out what are some things that you might be able to apply. But you have to look at your own situation and just take inventory of what's going on with that particular team. And in the end, you just have to be true to yourself and be who you are, not try to be somebody else. And I can't really speak on what happened at other places when other people get there. And a lot of times, you get in a new situation and you're young and you really don't understand the circumstances. So, I was very thoughtful about opportunities that came up. I had some different opportunities, talked to some different teams along the way. Had a tremendous experience. After 20 years, I thought it was the right time for myself and my family to try to maybe find something new or try something different and see if we can, put together a winning program. And as you both know, like, the NFL is one of the, it's hard as hell. I mean, it's a pain in the ass on a week-to-week basis. The margins are very small, and it's as competitive a league as there is in the world. And you have to embrace that challenge and be willing and open to say, you know what, they're probably going to make some mistakes. Things aren't going to go exactly the way that you hope, but you just got to keep working and you just got to find solutions, fix problems, and just keep moving forward. And hopefully you have enough of an opportunity to establish a program and put something in place that's sustainable for a long period of time.
I think it's a great answer, and I think you guys surprised the shit out of so many people with wins last year, especially with Davis Mills.
Yeah.
Dougie Davis.
You mean Dougie?
Dougie, Dougie Davis Mills seems like, by the way, D Mills they put on the screen. I mean, what do you want us to do?
Come on.
What do you want us to do? You know what I mean? Dougie Mills is such a good name. But he came on this show, and it seems, I was very lucky to play with Andrew. And I think anybody that's been in the NFL around Stanford dudes knows that Stanford dudes are their own dudes.
Different dudes. Yeah. They're different dudes.
They are. Stanford dudes are their own dudes. Not only are they super smart, but like Stanford recruits like free thinking, like that is kind of the Stanford thing, like the upper elite smart people, but also kind of their own free thinking folks. And they like empower that. That's almost, hey, everybody's their own thing. So when he came on the show, it felt like I was talking like, oh, this is very similar to Andrew Luck. And it's hard to not do that because, Andrew's Andrew and he's his own guy. But there's no way you guys thought he was going to be that fucking guy, right? Or did you know? Because they made a big thing. Like the first pick, it was third round or something. The first pick they took was this quarterback. They liked this quarterback. They got a guy. You could have never expected him to be that good, or was that just all from scouting and talking to him, just having an understanding that he's probably going to be okay?
Yeah, I think Rich Eisen lost his mind when we made the pick, but I mean, that's okay. I think at the time, it's a fair question. We knew we were going to add a quarterback to the team regardless. We had Ty here. We were dealing with the Dahn situation. So we knew at some point we were going to add a quarterback. And I think what you're trying to do is we were picking, I think, 66th or 67th, whatever it was. So there was a certain pool of players, call it 50 players, that weren't going to be available. So we kind of moved on from those players. And really, you just go through the process, you evaluate the players, you assign a grade, and then you try to make the right decision that you feel makes the most sense. So in Davis's situation, we had spent some time with him. He actually, his workout, when you go back and watch his workout, it was kind of interesting. So it was kind of that steady rain, the kind of what happens out there in Palo Alto in the spring was 50 degrees. And he really didn't blink an eye. He just kind of went through his process, and he actually had a fairly productive day throwing the football. So kind of speaks to his personality here a little bit. So, he had some injuries that he had to deal with at Stanford. But, we had some relationship with some folks out there. Coach Shaw, Pep was here, at the time as well. So it was a situation where when we went through the process, when we looked up at the board, we thought, you know what, all right, this is a player that we have some degree of conviction on. And you really, look, no one's going to sit here and tell you exactly how things are going to work out. I mean, I'd be ignorant to sit here and tell you that because there's as many misses as there are hits in the draft. That's
every year, by the way.
It happens to everybody.
Hey, people win drafts the day after the draft. You hear that people lose drafts the day after the draft.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day. How you can assign a grade to a draft the day after when these players literally haven't even been in your building is like mind-numbing. But we got to create content. We got to put a lot of
No
problem. I understand.
Listen to GM there. Yeah, you guys got to fucking talk about it, I guess. But I mean, that's like, Nick, our draft spectacular every year we do, it's our biggest show of the year every year. We know nothing about any of the guys getting drafted. Nope. And we say after every guy, this guy could be a Hall of Famer.
Could be a stud.
This guy could be out of the NFL.
Maybe I'll tune in during the draft next year while the draft is going on.
Hey, maybe you could join us. I don't know if you have a pick. I don't know after your pick.
We can have a conversation about
that'd be great. Last question for me before the boys have some here. And good luck. Hey, congrats on hitting on Dougie Mills.
Yeah.
Davis Mills. So with Davis Mills, young quarterback, especially third-round draft pick, his contract is what it is. You see the trends happening around the NFL, I assume, with this cash over cap and voidable years and everything like that. How does that play into the 20 years of experience that you had having to build a team alongside Bill Belichick? And now it seems like there's much different rules to the game. You see what the Bucs are able to pull off now. Granted, you got to be able to recruit the players to do that, but they're signing guys for a lot of money at a rapid rate across the board, it seems like. Then you look at the Rams, they're able to do the same thing. And we talked to Chris Ballard here in town, and he's, it's like, hey, you're going to kick a can down the road. It's going to get you some point. But it feels like right now is a time where the game is evolving and the salaries and contracts are changing. Do you feel that? How much do you pay attention to that? And do you and the salary cap guru have to talk about strategy year in, year out? Because it feels with Davis Mill on that small contract, you could take advantage of this in the next couple years potentially.
No, it's a great question. You have to have an awareness of what's going on in the league, where salaries are going. Certain positions are more impacted than others. We've seen a spike in some markets relative to others. So absolutely, you need to have an awareness and understanding. And at some point, you're going to have to make some level of commitment to whomever the players are. So what we try to do is kind of look at it in sort of 2-year windows and 2-year increments. So right now we're dealing with the 22 season. We kind of know where we are this year, and then kind of thinking ahead a little bit from a big picture perspective to the 23 season. And then once the 22 season is over, then it's 23 and 24. So what I've found is sort of useful is to kind of look at it in 2-year windows and 2-year increments and start to maybe think ahead a little bit, but you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. So in the end, it's about acquiring good players, finding good players that fit your team. There's always going to be a cost associated with doing that. So you just want to make sure that you budget and plan accordingly. And if you have to make a commitment of X number of dollars, it's going to cost you somewhere else. So how you supplement the rest of your team, you might have to be creative, but every team has a different philosophy about how they handle it. I'd say New Orleans has been as good as any team in the league of sort of doing this. But eventually you're going to have to account for everything, and you just don't want to put yourself in a position where you literally have to drop a grenade and blow up your entire team because of costs associated with it. So the bottom line is we all know that the expectation is our job is to win, and we have to put the team in the best position possible that gives us the best chance to do that. And it's going to come in many shapes and sizes.
Excited to watch the game continue. A lot of money coming in the league. A lot of money right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Absolutely.
Hey, that red zone deal is still up too. They're talking like they're talking like $2.5 billion for that.
Yeah,
that goes right into the salary cap, right? That's the TV thing goes into the salary cap. I think. How do you guys get like, hey, this is what projected salary cap is, but that could be vastly different, right? With like 2 different deals.
Absolutely. There's a projection, and I would say when you look at X number of years, okay, you just use an average of what normal cap growth is. All right, kind of budget that for next year. And then if there's going to be a big jump, then you might want to maybe plan accordingly. But again, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, because ultimately you have to run the team. You have to try to put together a good team that you feel is going to be competitive and not necessarily worry about there's going to be this massive spike 3 years down the road. So let's harvest assets, let's harvest cash, and not put a good product out there. It's kind of irresponsible to do
Look at you Merrill Lynching on us right there. Go ahead, AJ.
I guess, what's your philosophy, or how do you handle all of this? Pat and I joke about it all the time. The salary cap is not real. Now, I would assume you would argue against that a little bit, but with the void years and everything they can do with contracts now and how creative you can get, are you always trying to figure out, hey, how can we make this work with these players?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, AJ. You have to budget accordingly. And ultimately, you can push it out so far. Really, you're probably, if you do a 4 or 5 year deal, your first year or two, it's going to be palatable. You're going to be able to basically take on just about anything. But you want to try to, I would say, have sort of a flat salary structure. So, your best players, typically, those are going to be probably some of your higher paid players. And then how you supplement the rest of the team and the rest of the roster. Ultimately, it's going to be philosophically what you believe in. So, you're going to have X number of, call it minimum rookie contracts come on your team on a year-to-year basis. You're going to kind of have some contracts there in the middle, and then you're going to have some contracts at the top end of the kind of the upper echelon. So you want to try to keep some level of balance. And at some point, if you want to make a massive commitment, okay, it's going to come at the expense of, let's say you make a big commitment to one player, it could come at the expense of 3 or 4 players. Okay, how is that going to affect the rest of your roster construction and your team and your overall depth? So that's just philosophically a discussion that you have to have with the important parties. So myself and Lovey would have to have that discussion. So I think from our perspective, it's trying to be fiscally responsible, but take advantage of opportunities when they're there. And if we feel like there's a situation where we want to go ahead and make a big commitment to a player because we think he can really help us, then we'll go ahead and do that. If not, then we just move on to the next group and just have confidence in the people that you have in your building.
Talking to Nick Caserio, general manager of the Houston Texans, 99.9% Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Love Italians.
Huge.
My parents might get mad at me that I'm not 100% because we're like, my mom is 100% Italian. My dad's 100%. So yeah. I guess I kind of gifted you the 0.1%.
Okay. Well, I want to let you know, you should have heard my dad's thoughts. He's 100% Irish when he heard I was 0.01% Italian. That was certainly something.
That was probably a nice conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. The Irish and the Italian always have great rapport. So I remember Casserly, right? He was GM of the Texans. He took Super Mario Williams. We're losing you there. Running out of time? Oh, no. Is that us or you?
No, we got 10 minutes.
Is that us?
It shows.
We apologize. All right.
Mine
anyways.
says it says 9 minutes, so I think we're okay.
All right. So we'll run it down. We'll run the shot clock down. Casterly got allegedly. Now, who knows what's real, what isn't? But this was like I think, landmark conversation about this. Casterly drafted Super Mario Williams over Reggie Bush. He drafted Super Mario because he went out and said, "Hey, we got to tackle Peyton Manning. Like we are in the same division as Peyton Manning. I'm trying to beat Peyton Manning." Do you have that same philosophy? Because you win your division, you're in the playoffs. And right now, is it like Derrick Henry? Is that who you try to prepare for? Or how do you go about preparing to win your division? Or are you just trying to build the best team you have?
Yeah, I think that's probably the better way to look at it, Pat. I mean, look, every team has good players. So every week it's going to be somebody different. So it's Taylor one week, it's Taylor and Matt Ryan, it's Hines, it's Pittman. That's 1 week. Okay, then you go down to Jacksonville, you're going to have to deal with Trevor. At least offensively, and in Tennessee, you're going to have to deal with Derek. And then on the other side of the ball, you got, Jeffrey Simmons, who's as big a badass as there is in the league. So again, you're not going to necessarily pick one player to try to combat one particular player. We know what the competition is in the AFC South. Everything has to go through the AFC South. So you have to be good in your division. By the same token, you want to try to put together as comprehensive a team as possible that's going to give you a chance to succeed regardless of the opponent whom you face. So we know what the South entails, and then each week, this year we have the AFC West, and we have the NFC East. So there's good players.
Oh, that AFC West.
Good luck.
Yeah, there's good players all over the league. I mean, look, you guys were in the league long enough to know that. I mean, every team has good players, so you have to prepare each week for that opponent. And so our philosophy is just try to put together the best team that we can, not necessarily make it about one player, understanding that we're going to face challenges every week.
Boston Connor, who is a masshole, by the way.
Yeah, Nick, thank you for bringing, 5 Super Bowls to New England and also being there for 8. But you mentioned...
You shortchanged me on the 6th one. I was there for all 6.
Oh, you said 2001. I thought you were the janitor, Nick. What the hell? Thanks for 6, then. Jeez.
I didn't count in 01. I was like nothing. Don't worry about that. Actually, I'll give you guys that first year. My job was to write down everything that John Madden was saying and then run it into the press box, because sometimes, you know what it's like. Coaches share with different people. So my job was to run in the press box and say, hey, here's what Madden's talking about. So
John Madden
I didn't really have a
play
big part. So in all fairness, we'll just stick with 5 then.
No, 6. John Madden just gave away our entire third down. Our entire third down. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Nick, but speaking of commitment to players, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah actually just buried his own quarterback right after extending him, though, to like a $40 million guaranteed extension. How hard is it for like first-year GMs to stay committed to players that they didn't actually pick for their team?
No, it's a great question. You have to be fair. You don't want to jump to any conclusions. Everybody has a blank slate from the beginning. So do you have a
Is that real? Is that real though?
I would say I don't want to speak for anybody else, Pat, but I would say from my perspective, try to be fair and rational and reasonable. And you don't want to look, if a guy's a good player, he's a good player. And if he thinks he fits what you're doing, then you're going to find a way to keep him around. So I would say philosophically, that's our approach and perspective. But anytime you go in a new situation, there's always a propensity to say, well, you know what? This player was drafted by somebody else. Like, that's okay. Like, if he's a good player and he fits what you're doing and he has, what you want in your program, then that's okay. That's a credit to the people that drafted him. So I think just being fair and being rational, being reasonable, and kind of giving everybody kind of a fair chance from the beginning. And then ultimately, we're going to make the decisions that we feel make the most sense for our team. And, we've tried to be consistent with that. And hopefully that's what we're going to continue to do, moving forward as well.
I've heard, some GMs that maybe get brought in that didn't draft a player have said, like, hey, there's no loyalty between us. I did not draft you. I've just heard that GMs have said that in contract negotiations before.
Pat, unfortunately, that actually does happen, but it's not really fair to the player. I mean, really, you have to just kind of be, open-minded and just look at all the information and not kind of have a jaded opinion because that's really not a way to negotiate. I mean, look, you're going to have to negotiate with multiple agents, and sometimes you're going to win, sometimes it's going to work out, sometimes you're going to sign the player, sometimes you're going to choose to go to another team. We just move on to the next player, understanding that that's the nature of the business, and there's no hard feelings, at least from our perspective. That's kind of how we try to approach it and handle it.
Hey, Nick, last question here. We can't thank you enough for your time. Go ahead, Ty.
Nick, Pat alluded to it earlier, how externally, when you first got the job, it kind of seemed like the building was on fire, and I'm sure it was different internally, but was there ever a point when you first got there after having so much success in England where everything kind of just seemed like really daunting? It was like, oh shit, maybe I did make a mistake kind of coming here and I should have just waited for a different opportunity?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I would say not at all. I would say anytime you go into a new situation, you know that you're going to face challenges, and whatever they are, honestly, you just have to deal with them head on and just try to process the information and just make good decisions. So each situation is different. There's no ideal situation that you're going to walk into. Anytime you go into a new situation, whether it's a new head coach or new general manager, they're making a change for a reason. So your responsibility is to go in, embrace the challenge, accept that it might be difficult, but that's okay. So I think you have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally tough as a player. You have to be mentally tough as a team builder, understanding that you're going to face challenges. And again, going back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, it's not easy. Like, this league is hard as hell, like on a week-to-week basis. So just as long as you understand that, you can't get flustered. You try to just maintain some level of civility and understand, just try to be consistent day to day. And sometimes things will go the way you hope. Other times they don't. You know what? Make a decision, move on, and go on to the next thing. And that's the only way you're going to build something that's sustainable for a long period of time.
I've been incredibly impressed here. Not that my opinion means shit, but you seem like a human. You know, you're coming out of that robot operation New England down to Houston, which has seemed to be on fire. There's a lot of different times you could be incredibly jaded and a little bit of an asshole, and I think everybody would understand. Yeah. You seem like a good guy. Hey, and we want to let you know we appreciate the hell out of your time here. Last thing before I let you go.
I appreciate that, Pat. You should have known by my wrestling comment that, I'm just an everyday guy.
Yeah, I know that. And by the way, I mean... That means something. You know what I mean? That means something. But did Bill say anything to you when you took the job? Like any motivational, like on your way out, a text message, a call or anything as you took this job, becoming a GM for the first time in your life?
Yeah, no, we actually, when I flew to Houston and then I went back to New England, I had the opportunity to talk to him face to face. We had a great conversation. Bill's always very supportive of the people that work for him. And I think if you are loyal, you do a good job, you work your ass off for him. He respects that and he appreciates that. And I'm thankful and grateful for the opportunity that he provided to me. He didn't know me from Adam, but he gave me a lot of responsibility and I was able to work in concert with him for a number of years. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. So I think it's important, really it's when you leave a situation, just go somewhere and just do the things that you believe in, that you think are right. And he's always going to be supportive of that. I have a good relationship with him. Matter of fact, I saw him over the summer. We've talked periodically, different points, on different players. So I have a lot of respect and appreciation, admiration for what he did for myself and my family, along with the rest of the Patriots organization. But, once we kind of go our separate ways, like he understands that we have a job to do here and we're going to do what's best for the Texans, just like he's going to do like he has for however many years for the Patriots.
Well, I can't wait to watch you. It's a damn shame. You're in the AFC South, but I mean, Matt Ryan. Hey, I don't want to give it too much away because of competitive balance and advantage. Saw Matt Ryan throw about 92 yards yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe get your defense. Maybe get the DBs off. Have them sit.
My God.
You know what I mean? Watch over top, Caserio. We put that.
You sure like Jack DeVille didn't grab it out of the air?
No.
Move it down the field a little bit.
Blue actually cream pied.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The football.
Yeah, football. And then they threw it. Ladies and gentlemen, the general manager of the Houston Texans, and we appreciate the hell out of your time here, man. Have a great camp. Have a great season. Nick Caserio.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Hey, he was awesome.
GM of the Houston Texans, yeah.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
Great.
That
Great
is-
guy.
Great dude.
I fucking, honestly, had to bring up us burying him with the headset because, I remember, I think I did a whole dance about it.
Yeah, we said some things.
His
Yeah.
answer
Nick
made sense.
Caserio.
though.
What's that?
His answer made sense.
Yeah, I'm just trying to hear what the fuck's going on. All right, why don't you guys get off my ass? I was on a headset for 17 years. We won 5 Super Bowls with me on a headset. I would just like to hear what the fuck can you get. That's probably what he was saying as they were showing him clips of us going, "Oh, I'm Nick Caserio." He was like this asshole. I'm just trying to figure out what we got here, bud.
He wasn't the
basically-
only guy in that building that we had a lot of questions about.
Oh, we
Okay,
didn't
so-
bring up East. Call him back. No, I'm joking. We
He
didn't have time
basically
on the
said,
Zoom.
"Do you want me to be PFF and guess what the play call is and try to grade my guys, or know what the play call is?"
It's awesome.